This is War Room Moments, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and most relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. War Room Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board. Here's your host, Jason Miller.
Hey, welcome to the War Room today. Terry, it's great to have you here, my friend. And I look forward to really getting to hear your journey in life. Thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and appreciate your invite.
Awesome. Well, hey, I love to, because I always tell people that I'm really bad at introducing people. So if you could just take 15 seconds or so, just let the audience know up front who you are and what your superpower is.
Excellent. My name is Ted Davis. My company is Grace Strategic Services, Inc. We've been in business now for 27 years as a leadership coach, consultant, and trainer. I love training leaders. My whole purpose is to help managers become leaders and leaders extend themselves or reproduce themselves. I think the kind of the secret sauce is a combination of experience. I've been either a student, practitioner, or a teacher of leadership now for more than 50 years. So I think it's experience plus education. I've had a lot of really good education, both by going to school, reading books, but also by having worked with some really phenomenal leaders in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I fully get that. I mean, I cut my teeth out of the military for 23 years. So
I did 22 years.
Well, there you go. So see, there's a little background connection right there we didn't even make yet.
Which branch of service were you in?
Army. Yeah.
Again, what years?
From 1993 to 2000, end of 2016.
Excellent. Well, I predated you. I graduated from the military academy in 1974 and retired from active duty in 1996.
Yep. Oh, we had a little bit of overlap, not much, but
it was it was a great 22 years.
Yeah.
As I always tell people, if I was 18 and had to do it over again, I'd still go to West Point. I'd still make the Army my first career, and I'd marry the same woman. So I have been incredibly blessed in my life.
There you go. So did you retire as a lieutenant colonel or a full bird?
A lieutenant colonel.
Okay. Yep.
I was fortunate. My last active duty assignment was here in Leavenworth, Kansas, where I was on the faculty at the Command and General Staff College. So
nice.
Teaching is a wonderful way to end what was a thoroughly enjoyable career.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's great that, because a lot of people don't come out of that experience, and it's a very small number actually that come out and do the entrepreneurial thing. A lot of people, well, at least of my time that I served, a lot of them go right back into the system as a government worker doing something similar to what they were doing while they were in boot still. So,
and I swore I was not going to do that.
Me too.
I was not going to change uniform and stay on that. I was going to go seek something that was more challenging, more enterprising. So I took a short-lived job as a vice president for international marketing and sales. Mm-hmm. And when that job went away, one of the things I learned is I was no longer suitable for working for anybody else.
Yeah.
That's when I started my consulting company, and been at it now for 27 years, and feel very blessed.
You're absolutely unemployable at this point.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
That's what I always tell people.
Yeah, we say that, but yet I am employed by just a whole bunch of other people.
Right,
project by project, leader by leader. So I do work for a living and do work for a lot of other people.
Right. Yeah, I had somebody last week. I got a call last week, and they were like, well, hey, we got a CEO position for you if you'd like it. And I was like, I'm not employable. I'm sorry. It's one thing when you work for yourself, right? And then you service others, but you're working for yourself. That's that. It's self-guided leadership at that point. So it's just a different thing. But anyway, we kind of went off on a tangent there, but that's okay. We had a realization there, so we had to connect the dots to begin there. So anyway,
Well, thank you for your service.
yeah, you too, man. And I love having veterans on the show. That's it fits the war room, right? So anyway, so I love to really kick the show off into your whole story. We know the military side, but did you come from a family of entrepreneurs?
Yes, I did.
Okay, cool.
My maternal side of my family, particularly my mother's side, my grandparents emigrated from Italy at the turn of the 19th century, and my grandfather was a shoemaker, and I mean a shoemaker. And so
Oh,
when he came to the United States, he set up his own shop in Binghamton, New York. Had a little shop making shoes, not just repairing them, making shoes from scratch. And my grandmother, was a seamstress, and she opened up her dressmaking shop, and that grew into a dry cleaning business. So by the time I came along, they had a reasonably healthy dry cleaning business that they grew for themselves. And then all of my cousins on that side of the family have all ventured out into some sort of business together. On my paternal side, or of my family, my father, I can recall him having little ventures. So we had a little shop downstairs from the apartment we lived in. And I recall, in fact, I used to help him once in a while. He got into the business of wiring cables together, taking thin wires, wire them together, make thick cables and so forth.
hmm.
And so he did that for a while. I think he got into an early version of multi-level marketing. Didn't go anywhere. So yeah, he did have a desire to do that, and he was a great technician. So I think there was a bit of it, and now all my siblings have gone off and started their own businesses. My two brothers, at least one of my four sisters. So I think entrepreneurship kind of runs in the family.
Yeah, so it's in the blood.
Yes, it absolutely is, and
Yeah,
it continues on. My two sons have both started businesses,
yeah,
uh, and are doing quite well. So
yeah,
I think it
yeah.
is the family. As much as I loved the being in the Army, I did absolutely loved it. I'd do it again if I had a chance. Still, as a post-military career, I think being an entrepreneur, again, we just talked about, being in charge of your own destiny, is really important to me. And so being a management consultant, trainer, and coach, it's given me such a variety of the clients. So I've worked with construction companies, IT companies, manufacturing companies, and a lot of not-for-profits. And so having that variety, I think, is what fuels me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can absolutely I can connect with that, obviously. Because my main company I operate too, it's a consulting firm too. So it's there's just something about seeing change, right? Because the thing about it, I always look at it this way is in the military for that long, right? We saw change all the time, right? So you get accustomed to that 3 or 4 year itch of a PCS or whatever, right? So that's why I really love the business world itself, because it's just changing all the time, right? And it's like every year or two we get a PCS. Right?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And I think the thing that makes it exciting, and you talk about, change, we go to a different place and so forth. And I think that's one of the things I've enjoyed about being an entrepreneur in the consulting space is that, number one, I've got to change. If I take on a new client, there's something about me that has got to change. I've got to learn new information. I've got to learn new organizations. I've got to learn how to apply, solid principles and concepts that have been established for forever. What's a new way of applying it correctly? So that challenge of new experience, new knowledge, new people, that requires personal change as well. It's not just simply that our clients change because we offer them something, but we change as well. So I think it's that duality of change that really makes it exciting.
Yeah, change management, right?
Absolutely.
That's a
That was just my lesson, and with one of my clients. That was the lesson just this past week.
Yeah.
How do you manage change? And change is one of the jokes I like to use is that change is a constant. The only place you don't get change is at a vending machine. And, so we have to be change agents. So to be a change agent, at least what I like to instruct on is to be a change agent. Number one, you got to be a futurist. You got to look into the future. What's coming? What are the forces and trends? Where's the market going? Where's the business going? And so forth. So you got to be a futurist. Then you got to be able to cast a vision. What does that look like for us? So there's generally, here's what the future looks like. So there's a vision of what it means to us. I've got to challenge. Got to be a challenger. I got to challenge the process. I've got to be a good communicator.
Yeah, right.
And I've got to be a good implementer. And I think one of the key characteristics of being a very good change agent, believe it or not, is to be a terminator. There are things you've got to cut off. Things you got to stop. There's products that aren't working. There are services that maybe nobody wants any longer. Right. And so there's policies, procedures. There is something about what you've done in the past that is not going to be workable going forward. And to know what that is and when to terminate it, I think is incredibly important. One of my favorite books on the topic is Henry Cloud's book, Necessary Endings. Great book about managing change, being a good leader. And his whole premise is that you've got to know when to kill something, when to cut it off, when to prune it, as he says. So change is, I think, something we have to master, particularly if you're going to be a leader in any organization, and certainly if you're going to be in our business, in our space as consulting, coaching, and training. You've got to be a highly skilled change agent.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the whole adaptability. There's the, all those different things to emerging markets that are always coming. I mean, we're like right in the middle of this AI emerging market stuff, right? And I mean, it's big. It is bigger than any of us even realize. That's for sure. But we're on it's kind of like back in, I think it was 99 or 2000, right? I had this great idea of, because a lot of people couldn't remember when to send a birthday card to their mom or dad or whatever, right? So I came up with this great idea that we would send a postcard in the mail to remind you to put those birthday cards, whatever, in the mail the day before you were supposed to do it, right? And it was a great little business, but then guess what happened? The internet happened. Right. But there again, the change, right? It was a change, and it was a change that just killed it. I mean, I had to take it behind the barn, put a bullet in it, right? So,
oh my gosh, and not anticipating or not paying attention to it. Some classic case, I think, Kodak, or was it Polaroid? One of the two.
Polaroid,
didn't see the changes in photography coming and so forth, and they just thought it was always going to be the camera the way it was, and boy, that one died quickly. And then, of course, there's Blockbuster, who didn't see the internet. I mean, here's this little startup, this little bizarre thing called Netflix, who first mails you this little disc, and now, of course, it's online. But wow, Blockbuster became ghost town.
And Blockbuster, actually, they had a chance to sell out to Netflix.
Yes.
And they didn't take it.
So anticipating understanding the combination of forces of technology,
Mhm.
of societal change, the whole classic theory of strategic management. They have that acronym PEST, PEST, political, economic, social, and technological. Kind of 4 areas in which there are forces and trends that you have to pay attention to understand what's going to happen with the buyer behavior.
Yeah.
One of the things I always encourage my clients, my coaching coachees to understand is that every organization exists to deliver something of value to the marketplace. Every one of it, every organization exists to deliver something of value.
Mhm.
And so deliver something of value, you got to keep up with what is it that's valuable to the marketplace at any one time. And so that you've got to pay attention to, as we've already said, the changes in technology, the changes in social mores, social attitudes, and so forth. And particularly, what are the buyers going to need, want, or and how they're going to purchase, where they're going to purchase it. So
Mhm.
I think that leads to one of my key themes that I share with business leaders is, or any leader, is pursuing clarity. Clarity of who you are as an individual, clarity about your personal leadership philosophy, clarity about your business model, understanding who is your buyer, what are they buying, what's the problem they're trying to solve, being clear about your value generation process.
Mhm.
So I think that's one of the challenges. We talk about change. In the midst of change, there's one consistent thing, and that's to pursue clarity. Clarity about what's happening outside the organization. Because, as I just said, that we were talking about change management earlier this week. Well, as you study what changes, what causes us to change, well, there's first external forces. And so we have got to be prepared internally to adapt to external change, because that's what's going to drive us. So most effective, almost all internal change is driven by some external change that we have to respond to. If we're going to stay relevant, we've got to be able to change the product. We've got to be able to change the service offering. We've got to change where we deliver, how we deliver. So I think getting to that kind of clarity about where are we in the marketplace is so important if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah. And then there's the reality part, right? To throw on top of that. And that is, and like you, I work with, lots of business owners from pretty much every category. And when you get too married to it, that you don't want to change it, just because you think it's good doesn't mean the market does, right?
That's right.
And I see that all the time, and it drives me crazy because I don't ever get married to anything, right? If the market speaks and it's good, go with it. If not, take it behind the barn and put a bullet in it, right? And just get it over with.
Well, I agree with you. When you say I don't get married to anything, I would say don't get married to, a product. Don't get married to a process, because the change. But there are, in the midst of change, you've got to figure out what doesn't change. There was a chief of staff of the Army back in, just as you came on active duty. I don't know if you remember Gordon R. Sullivan. General Gordon R. Sullivan was the chief of staff of the Army. And he had his mantra, because he was taking over an army that was in huge midst of change, and he always talked about the consistent, what we need to be consistent in. So there are some things that are not going to change. What are they? And I think those are solid principles, like treating people with respect and dignity, integrity, quality, the pursuit of quality. Now, what is quality may change, but the idea that there's a principle of we always pursue quality, we pursue safety. The content may change, but the principle remains the same. What's his name? Stephen Covey used to talk about the mistake that people did was they crashed against principles. And so we've got to be able to be clear about, here's these principles of things like equality and respect, the idea of delivering something of value. So we've got to know what doesn't change in the midst of what does change.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
you got to know both of those. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then also you look at, I don't remember who said it. It's not something I came up with, but it's rules and laws, right? So, we have to break rules to break barriers. You can't break laws, but you can break rules, right? You can,
Absolutely.
you can be, if we never broke the rules, we would never innovate.
You're absolutely right. I think those things are trying to control some sort of behavior. And what we need to be able to look at is what's the behavior that we're trying to control? Because
right
in the midst of that, and as we talk about change, I think all improvement comes from change. Absolutely. All improvement comes from change.
Yeah.
However, not all change is an improvement.
Right.
I mean, the thing we change may not be the improvement that we're looking for. It may be another change. It may be something else that we have to do. I don't think that necessarily every social change we're going through is making us a better society.
Right. Yep.
There are principles I think that we should be living by, getting back to integrity, getting back to treating people with dignity and respect and so forth.
Yeah.
So change is so complex, and but in order to change an organization, I think one of the guiding principles is to change an organization, you must change the leader. Now, that has two implications.
Sure.
We must change the leader. Now, either the leader, the incumbent changes a perspective, changes by learning something new, they change a belief, things like we just talked about, they change what rules they believe in and so forth. So the incumbent either changes to change the organization, or if they're resistant to it or incapable of it, unfortunately, sometimes we got to change out who the incumbent is to change the organization. So, but we as leaders need to go first. We have to be the first to change because we have to change perspective. We have to learn new things. We've got to learn new messages. We have, as Mahatma Gandhi talked about, we have got to be the change that we're looking for. Yeah. Well, what is the change we want? Well, we've got to be that change. So
sure.
we absolutely have to go first to change an organization and to move an organization forward.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I will say, Ted, if I mean that there was plenty there to learn for sure. So if you didn't get anything from the last, I don't know, however long we've been on here, close to 20 minutes now, if you didn't get anything out of that, well, you just weren't listening. But for the hard heads, let's hit the hard heads that maybe didn't, right? So if you had a couple mainstay things, Ted, that were like your go-to principles, what would those be to share?
I'd say I would repeat what I said about every organization exists to deliver something of value to the marketplace. So you got to understand, what is the value I'm delivering and how do I deliver it? And is it a value? So always remember that's the purpose of your organization. It's to deliver something external. So you got to respond to the outside markets. That's number one. Number two, I would suggest that a key takeaway is pursue clarity. Clarity at every dimension, clarity personally on who you are, what you believe as a leader, what your behaviors will be as a leader, clarity about your business model by understanding clarity about your products, your services, your customer base. Understand it thoroughly so that you can produce a solid business model. I guess one thing we hadn't talked about, but I would love to remind people is that generally people will rise or fall to the level of our expectations. So if I expect very little of people and I treat them in a demeaning manner, guess what? They're going to fall to that. But again, if I expect a lot of good things from people and I treat them with respect, when I treat them that high expectations, but because they have high abilities, high capabilities, generally, usually most of the time, people are going to rise to meet those expectations.
Yeah, true, man. That's that one should hit home right there, because that's a beautiful way to put that, for sure, no doubt about it. But anyway, so I want to give you a chance to put out some information on, how do you want people to, that listen to this, to be able to reach out to you and either work with you, ask you questions, whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. Well, the quickest way, obviously, is via text or phone. My phone number, text number is 913-306-1499. So if you want to send me a text, just mention that you listen to this podcast and let me know your name, your email, and your phone number. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. My email address is TEDavis at Grace, GRACE, for the number 4, success.com. So send me an email. Again, the company is Grace Strategic Services. And I'd love to work with any entrepreneur, any leader, particularly any leader who's trying to move forward. As I mentioned earlier, my mission in life is to help managers become leaders and help leaders reproduce themselves.
Yeah. Well, there's another great one right there, man. We could probably do an hour podcast here, but in respect of your time, we won't do that. But anyway, so I like to kind of close the show with the big question, I guess, and that is because it lets us in your head a little bit. If you were able to invite anybody to this podcast today, dead or alive, any point in time in history, doesn't matter, who do you love to have here and why them?
Well, kind of the religious side of my life, I'd love to have a conversation with Christ. And am I getting it right? A more practical side of somebody real. I really love to be able to talk about this stuff with my West Point classmates. Any one of them. We are celebrating our, as I said, I graduated in 1974, so we're preparing for our 50th reunion. So I probably a little bit nostalgic, but absolutely wonderful classmates that I've had the pleasure of knowing, great teammates, great company mates, and so forth. And just to be able to compare notes and say, what are we going to do? We're now in our early 70s. What are we going to do for the next 70 years? Obviously, we're not going to live that long, but for however long we have, what's the next great thing we can do? Because the word retirement's not in the Bible, so I don't see retirement anytime in my future. There's something more to give and something more to do. So chatting about all these ideas and how we perpetuate them is always a wonderful way to spend the day.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's like I always say, if you love what you're doing, it's not really work anyway, is it?
That's true. It is. Well, it's a joy. It's also should be answering a calling. What do you?
Yeah.
And I think that can change. It changes over time as you learn, as you achieve, as you stumble and fall. You got to get up. I really believe that you are only a failure if you quit.
Yeah.
We know we're going to make mistakes, but you get up and keep moving forward. Excuse me, there are going to be disappointments in life, things that don't work out. How do you get up and keep moving forward? So you only fail if you quit.
That's right. You can't smoke a quitter either.
Absolutely.
Most people won't know what that even means, but that's okay. We'll leave it hanging there. So anyway, well, hey, Ted, geez, it was great to have you on the show today. As I always say, there's 168 hours in a week. Thanks for stopping by here for 35 minutes today and dropping some serious, no crap, good stuff on the audience that they can take away and implement today. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the time and for giving me a few moments on the air.
Absolutely. Cheers, my friend.
Thanks for listening to War Room Moments with your host, Jason Miller. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.